Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. We're excited you've joined us for today's session on informed delivery, from the mailbox to the email inbox. A few housekeeping details before we get started. This session is being recorded, and you should receive a link to the recording tomorrow by email. Please feel free to share this webinar content with colleagues that could not attend today. A question and answer session will immediately follow the presentation. If you have a question for our speaker, please type it into the questions box in your GoToWebinar panel on the right side of your screen. This webinar is hosted and sponsored by Suttle-Straus. Suttle-Straus was founded in 1910. Over 110 years, our company has built up the equipment and expertise to handle almost any marketing project. We offer creative design services, conventional and digital printing, displays and signage, direct and transactional mail, custom online marketing portals, kitting and fulfillment, and promotional products. For more information about us, please visit us on the web at Suttle-Straus.com. Now I'd like to introduce our speaker for today's session. Dave Lewis from SNAILWORKS is well known in the mailing industry as an expert in all things postal, particularly when it comes to USPS Informed products. Dave has been in the mail tracking business since 1999 and has played an important role in shaping the mail tracking segment of the industry. Dave, I'm going to hand it over to you, and you can take it away.
Okay, Megan, thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining today, and thank you to Suttle-Straus for inviting me to talk about my favorite topic, which is informed delivery. It's really, I think, the coolest program that the Postal Service ever came up with, and it keeps getting a little bit cooler and a little bit more relevant as we go on. So today we're going to talk about some of the basics about that. We're going to go through some of the uses we see, some of the benefits of it, and then we'll finally get into how to set up and what campaigns consist of, and then some details on the informed delivery promotion, which is coming up in August, which is going to be a huge deal when that gets here. So that said, let's go ahead. Sorry, I clicked the wrong button already. I muted myself. Okay, so I want to start out just a quick description of SNAILWORKS and what we do. Mail tracking is a big part of what we do. We do mail tracking to inform visibility. We do help our clients also with informed delivery, creating campaigns and tracking them. Digital marketing support, setting up landing pages and pearls and all the good stuff that goes to try to tie direct mail into the web. And finally, this time of year, I put this banner up on even numbered years. Political mail, we track a ton of political mail. It's really just, it's pretty much our standard mail tracking, but with a tilt towards that. So that's it. My commercial's done. And so that's it. Let's go ahead and talk about informed delivery and what it is today. And it's sort of the big thing, the elephant in the room, if you will, to me, is sort of a bad news, good news scenario, which is the bad news is, and this is official now, it's that the Postal Service has announced they put in a rate case for July 10th. And generally speaking, these days their rate cases go through as proposed. It's about 6.5%. Ooh. But 3 weeks later, on August 1st, which we're going to talk about today, you can get 4% of that back through the informed delivery promotion. And so really your effective rate increase for this almost a full second half of the year can be 2.5%, which is a lot better than 6.5%. And this year they've stretched it out to last through all the way through the fall mailing season. So in past years it was September through November. Now it's August through December. So really the full fall mailing season. This year the political mailing season as well will all be covered by this promotion. And it's the biggest promotion, their biggest discount, I should say, that the Postal Service has offered for informed delivery, or really just about anything I can think of right now. A 4% discount is substantial. And all you need to do it is you need an informed delivery campaign, and you need to follow the rules. And we'll be talking about the rules. I mean, I don't understand why somebody wouldn't at least take advantage of this promotion. And it really does strike me that as we look at, if you're a mail service provider, or if you buy mailing, from a mail service provider like Suttle-Straus, that this is really part of the postage equation as we go forward. It's going to be a very big deal. So there you go. I just kind of want to get that out of the way right at the beginning to say that's really, I think, a focus of informed delivery right now, and that's coming up. Your registration starts in June. It'll be here before you know it. So let's go. I want to do some basics on informed delivery, kind of level set, if you will, so everybody knows what we're talking about. And yeah, I think most people, hopefully everyone on here is signed up for informed delivery at home. I have been since it started, and I love it. It is designed by the Postal Service as a consumer-facing service. It really wasn't designed for us mailers. It was designed for consumers to enjoy their mail more. And so essentially what the Postal Service is doing is they're pulling black and white images off of their letter sorting equipment and sending that via email to subscribers to say, okay, here's pictures of what's going to be in your mailbox today. The sorting equipment always had the capability, excuse me, the barcode, the intelligent mail barcode sorting equipment always had that ability to lift images, and they just decided to share them. They are black and white. They're a grayscale, so they're not the prettiest thing on earth, but they really, they're very effective. They get a picture of it out there. One important difference, and this really matters in the end, is kind of why we're here today, which is flat size mail goes through a different machine, and flat sorters do not take a picture of the mail piece. So the only way that they could make this program work is to tell people who mail flats, hey, you can send us a replacement image of what your piece looks like, and we'll use that instead of this grayscale image. And they've expanded that into letters too. And so now what mailers can do is they can add and replace images to the campaign, plus add links into the web as well. So that's kind of why this matters to mailers, because it gives you another chance to get an image and a link out to your prospects.
Dave, I just dropped a link in the chat. If anybody's not registered for informed delivery, just follow that link to sign up today for free.
Yeah, thanks, Megan. Really, it's if you travel, someone will travel again someday. It is great to have. There are now, and this is one of the where it's really changed. There's now 47 million subscribers. 40 million of them get an email every day. Imagine that if you do any email marketing, to be able to send out a list of 40 million emails to people who requested them. The open rate on that, by the way, is typically about 60%. People want to see these emails. So the Postal Service is sort of giving you access to their email list in doing this. More than 1 in 4 households now subscribes. There's more than the last stat I saw, more than 2,500 mailers are enrolled in this, and this is going up all the time. And at any moment now, there's about 8,000 active campaigns that are going on. So this is a big program. I used to try to get people to do this 2 or 3 years ago when there were, when it was 5 or 6% of the mailers. Now it's a quarter of them get this, of the public receive these. So it's become a much more viable deal. As far as the demographics, who signs up for informed delivery? It's largely across the board, but the people who do sign up like it. Most people get the email digest. We think that's the most important way to take advantage of informed deliveries. People are going to see your message in their email. Most people look at it in the morning. Kind of makes sense. The people who are there right now, it skews female, and I guess in a lot of houses the female is the curator of the mail, if you will. In terms of age, it's not for young kids on their computers and phones. The biggest demographic is 65 and over, as far as the percentage of people who subscribe to it, and then as far as income. We have experienced this, and we see here that, and this is from 2018, so it's probably changed a little bit since then. But generally, informed delivery subscribers skew higher income. So, for example, when we've done promotions for Jaguar or for Land Rover, where they had high dollar lists they were mailing to, they got better subscriber rates. So it's a great bunch of the informed delivery subscribers are a very good targeted audience to reach, and they give you a way to do it. So some of the reasons that we've seen why our customers do informed delivery, and we do a lot of informed delivery right now, just because there's not a promotion going on doesn't mean it's not popular. It has a lot of benefits beyond saving postage. Probably the number one thing is that our clients have seen this. It tends to intuitively, it gives you better response. You're getting more impressions out to your client, and it's a substantial number of additional impressions now. So it's going to get you better response. It moves, if you have an ad there, it moves you to the top of the feed. There's a lot of benefits to that to boost your response by having an informed delivery ad. It ties into your online channels. One of the requirements that we'll go into is that that you have to have a clickable ride-along button that takes your prospect to your web page as part of it. So if you're doing online marketing, everyone has an online presence these days, any business or nonprofit. So this is a way to tie your direct mail directly into your online. Control your brand. And we have a lot of clients, and I'm sure Suttle-Straus does too, who are very picky about their brand and what PMS values you use, how their logos look. Everything has to look just right. And so a lot of our customers feel that rather than just have a grayscale image pop up, they'd rather have their own branding, have their colors, and have it look exactly right. You can get new customer data out of this. This does give you the possibility of downloading additional information about who opens it, who subscribes, who has emails in this. There's a lot of detailed and general data available from the program after a campaign. And finally, of course, the big deal we talked about already a little bit is saving postage. And you will save 4% on your total mail volume. I'll go into a little bit more detail as we get into that of what qualifies and exactly how that works. But so that alone is a big deal. But there's other reasons. One of the things that we've seen, this is the third year, at least I think, of this promotion. And in the last couple of years, we saw an uptick as our customers came on board and started signing up for these campaigns to save postage. But then they stayed after the promotions were over because they saw the value in informed delivery. So it's a great product. Excuse me. So let's go into a little bit into. I'm not going to go too deep in this because my math skills are awful. But just to kind of give a quick overview of how we see ROI in this and where the financial value is to this, because we're in business and finance matters. So let's talk about, first of all, some of the costs. The Postal Service, thank you very much, does not charge for this. There's no fee. Now there's work to do. You have to sign into the gateway. You have to. Well, we'll go through how to create a job and what you have to do. So there is effort. One of the things that you can do, certainly if you're working with Suttle-Straus, they can create a campaign for you, and they already have your barcode information and all that to add to it. So you give them some components, and we'll show you how that works in a second. So there's a cost. It's not a big cost, and there's probably some other costs in terms of assembling your images and things like that. If you have an agency, you may have to pay for some of that. So there are some minor costs. The Postal Service, again, doesn't charge anything. The benefit you can get from that is increased impressions. And again, we typically see somewhere between 15 and 25% additional impressions for a mailing by having informed delivery associated with it. So they'll, in addition to seeing your mail piece, they'll also see pictures of your mail piece. And then there is a clickable link on there, and we see anywhere from 0.01% to 1% clicks. It depends on the offer. It depends on how it's presented. Again, we don't see clicks as the primary benefit, but everyone likes clicks. It does get you some direct results in that respect. It does enhance your brand, as we discussed. It's tough to put finance on that. And of course, the slam dunk makes this a pretty easy decision, is postage savings. So if you're mailing any kind of quantity, the cost involved is, so you're paying $99 to Suttle-Straus to get it set up. The background, the cost benefit is pretty simple. The value you get, let's kind of just try to put some numbers to it. So let's say you're doing 100,000 piece mailing. So you're going to get typically between 15 to 25,000 additional impressions on that mailing. Again, this is costing you $99. I mean, there's no incremental cost. There's no per thousand on it. If the mailing usually gets 1%, which would be 1,000 responses, you're probably going to get 20 to 50 additional responses. Has been the experience our clients have seen. I never guarantee that, of course, but usually they do see a boost in response. And based on that, you can kind of multiply your lifetime value of a customer, the LTV, to figure out, if the cost justifies it. It's hard not to. And then the postage savings, oh, this is wrong. I have 2%, because this was a slide from the last promotion. So you can pretty much double these values as far as what 4% in postage savings is worth to you. So again, that makes it a pretty easy call, certainly for 100,000 pieces, even on a 10,000 piece mailing. Again, you can just sort of divide those other numbers by 10. It's the postage savings on 10,000 pieces is still pretty much going to justify it, plus all the other benefits you get. The reason the Postal Service is doing this promotion is to give you as mailers an opportunity to try this. And so they're not just doing it to give you money. And so, I mean, if you just want to take the money, that's fine. But usually it's a great opportunity to test out informed delivery and see how it works for you. Again, on this, double this $60 to $200, that $99, even on a 10,000 piece mail, it seems like a pretty small investment just on the basis of postage savings. And again, when we get into postage savings, it's something you really do need to work through, with your mailer and with Suttle-Straus to figure out exactly what the savings will be relative to the mailing you're doing, what postage costs are. Obviously, different kinds of mail may have larger discounts. So let's take a look at who is using informed delivery right now. We see this is just kind of a sprinkling of the people we see. We see a lot of retail advertisers using this. I talked about Jaguar campaigns. There's a Jaguar campaign we did pretty early in this, really. Lord & Taylor, a big retailer on the East Coast, is using this. K-Jewel, again, we do a lot of retailers. It's one of our two biggest segments. I'd say the other big segment is nonprofits. Nonprofits find a great deal of value in running informed delivery campaigns. And again, so this is Audubon Society had done this. This is actually one of their renewal efforts. And there's a renew now button on there, so it gives their donors an extra way to respond, an extra way to get to the donation page. So nonprofits are using this a lot, again, to scale to get more impressions. Also, it's important in a busy season in the fall. It's a good chance that your best prospects are getting multiple pieces of mail from multiple nonprofits on any given day. And again, by having this color added, also moves you to the top of the informed delivery feed. So it's just a better placement. And this is, I know with me, and I think this is true with most people, which is when you see your informed delivery email in the morning, your mind kind of sets in that. You see the first mail first, and it kind of stays with you. So a lot of different applications. Here's a couple. This is interesting. I'll show you some more of these too, which is these particular mailers chose not to use a replacement image. They just went with the grayscale image. Anyway, you can do that. We'll get into that. And for them, it was effective. They just wanted to add a button, and they wanted their original envelope to show. We see another big segment is financial insurance companies. We see a lot of them, and especially with a lot of the financial organizations, they will use the grayscale image because they send a lot of mail out, a lot of different kinds of mail out, and they just put the ride along button on all their stuff. Liberty Mutual, if you can imagine, they just have a button on there that says, here's your bill. Oh, by the way, if you want to, get a quote for something else, for a different kind of insurance, whatever that may be. So that's a good application we see in another big segment. Education's kind of interesting, and again, we see some of the basic alumni associations, which is really a nonprofit effectively. But we have seen this very actively in this used in undergraduate recruitment. If you've got a kid who's taken the PSAT, you know that about 2 days after they take it, their mailbox will be flooded with mail pieces that all kind of look the same, trying to get them to come to their college. So if you have an informed delivery campaign, it gives you an advantage over those who may not. The nursing pieces you see here, this was a nursing training program, and they would hold seminars to try to get people involved. Or to try to get people to register, and they got something like, in a matter of a couple of years, I think 1,200 clicks off of this that added just from the informed delivery ad. in addition to the response they got from their mail pieces. And remember, every time you see an ad here, there's a mail piece that associates with it. So somewhere out there in the ether. That's not really all kinds of businesses, all kinds of organizations, excuse me, have found ways to take advantage of this. If you're doing direct mail and direct mail works, it just makes direct mail a little bit better, regardless of the organization. So let me see. That said, let's go ahead and that's the whys, the sort of the benefits, the reasons, and who's using it. So let's go through what's actually involved, what's in an informed delivery campaign, the mechanics of it, and then how you create it. Then we'll talk about the promotion a little bit after that. So an informed delivery campaign generally has 3 components to it. And one of them is optional, but it's always a little confusing for people. But I'll try to keep you straight on this. So number 1 is a representative image, and that's the image here that replaces the black and white or this grayscale image that would normally be in the ad, and that's called a representative. Sometimes it's called a replacement image. That is not required on letter-sized mail. So I kind of showed you that, those insurance companies that keep the grayscale there. So you can do that if you want. If it's flat-sized mail, it is required. You can't do a campaign without a representative image for flat-sized mail. The ride-along ad is required. The ride-along ad is this little ad. It's a smaller image that goes beneath the representative image or the grayscale, whatever it may be there. And that's where your consumer can click and go to your web page, go to your landing page, whatever you may have, whatever URL. And that is the third part, by the way, is the URL, which is whatever URL you give to the Postal Service. That is where your prospect will be sent when they click on your button. This is not optional. You have to have a targeted website for them for your prospects to go to. You can't not have one as part of the campaign. So that's the replacement or representative image isn't required, but a ride-along ad is required. Excuse me. So let's talk a little bit about the representative image. I'm going to cover not just that, but the different elements, some of the characteristics, and excuse me, just once I clear my throat. I use the cough button on here. I'm getting more sophisticated. That's my dog. She's clearing her throat. I'm sorry about that. Okay, let's go. So the representative image is supposed to look like the mail piece. It must closely resemble an outside panel of the mail piece. You can use the back of the mail piece. That's okay. And this is kind of a cool application if you're doing postcard self-mailers or something like that. When your consumers get a piece of mail, they generally look at the address side of the mail piece, and a lot of them never look at the back. So if you have a great offer or a great image on the back of your mail piece, particularly on self-mailers, this is a great way to highlight it. You can use that as your representative image, so people would see that when they look at their informed delivery. And the objective of all this is that the Postal Service doesn't want this to just look like a list of banner ads. They want it to look like mail. They want your customers to be able to associate these ads with the mail. You have some variation. I'll show you some of that, but it's pretty much got to be the mail piece. And I'm going to give you some resources at the end, so don't feverishly write down these numbers. I'm also going to make a copy of this presentation available. So you'll be able to see this stuff, and I'll give you some resources where to get those kinds of details. But anyway, that's the representative image, pretty much the mail piece, and it should orient the same way as a mail piece. So if it's a flat, if it's 11 inches tall and 8 inches wide, then your ad or your informed delivery image should orient the same way. Here's some acceptable images that we saw. This was Lord & Taylor. And again, one of those things also, this is a light piece, so it has a black border. One of the requirements for light representative images. Same on this. Now this one's interesting. This is for a charity, and this white portion is what their envelope looked like. The address was right here, but this was it. And then they added a little bit of art at the bottom with an arrow pointing to their ride along. That's fine because it still looks like their mail piece. That was absolutely acceptable. Another interesting way of managing this. This is an organization, actually their envelope is blank on the front except for an indicia. They have their return address on the back. And so what they did is they actually created an image that shows both sides of the mail piece and a little tagline here. And this was deemed acceptable as well because it looked like the mail piece. And of course they had a ride-along button underneath it in the full ad. This is a Postal Service example off of their website actually. And so, you know, again, in this case, they have taken the address block and put some teaser in there, and then have this arrow pointing again to their ride-along. None of those are required, but again, it's really, you need it to look like the mail piece, and that's some ways to do that without being exactly the mail piece. So that's the representative image. Excuse me. So let's talk about the ride-along a little bit. And the whole point of the ride-along, it's a button again that your prospects can click, and as such, it really has to, that has to be the focus of it. It must be a call to action. And all these things we're talking about, in order for you to get a discount in the promotion, you have to follow these rules. And so it has to have a prominent call to action, and that has to be the main objective of it. But you can't just put your logo in there. It has to say click here. It has to say donate now, something like that. The call to action has to occupy 20% of the ride-along area. There's a little flexibility in that, but it's got to be prominent. I'll show you some examples, and then I'll kind of let you know. It's one of those things you really have to try as you get into the promotion as far as what works. It must have clear contrast. I'll show you what that means. You can't encourage paperless options. That seems fair. In other words, you can't say click here and don't get any more mail from us. The Postal Service doesn't really like that idea. So you can't encourage paperless options. That makes sense. And again, the dimensions, I'll give you access to that, or the resources for that. But one thing I do want to say about dimensions or images is these are very simple images. They're just JPEGs. They do not have, they're nothing, they're not any kind of HTML or anything fancy. They're just JPEG images. It's so simple, I can do it. Here's some acceptable ride-alongs. And you can see this, the maiden bound. I don't know, is that 20%? I don't know, but it's prominent, and this was deemed acceptable because apply now. It's definitely a call to action. It's a thing to do. Just as with give now, keep girls safe. Click here. Now, keep girls safe by itself would not be enough, but click here is pretty obvious. So these are prominent calls to action. The Postal Service loves click here. You'll never go wrong with that. And not to pick on anyone, but let me show a couple that did not get accepted because it's worth understanding how they work. So this is if you look at this, it looks pretty good. You know, the call to action, it says click here. Maybe it's not 20%, but it's pretty prominent. The problem with this one was the contrast was insufficient. So that knocked out white against the pale blue background was not considered sufficient contrast. We did redo this one for the client. Actually, all we did was change click here to a dark red, and then the contrast was fine. Get empowered is not really a call to action. I'm not sure what get empowered means, but it doesn't mean click here. So that was not accepted. Wall Haven at Kingstown. Yeah, that's the name of a housing development. It kind of goes to that's their logo. You can't just put your logo. It has to say click here to learn more. You can have your logo, but it still has to say click here somewhere. Oops, back there a second. So that's your ride along ad, the call to action you have to have there. Again, simple design, but it has to be a prominent call to action. And you know, and actually some of the words you can use do matter. You know, click here is great, give now is great. But however, if you say click here to give online, usually if you have the word online in there, they'll tend to bounce that. It's a little subjective, and we'll talk about the approval process to give you kind of a heads up on what you have to do to get through that. So the third component you need, you've got a representative image now, you've got a ride-along ad, now we need a target URL. So when someone touches or clicks your ride-along ad, where do they go? So it's a web address is all. URL, you know, is a fancy word for a web address. So a couple of opportunities. You can just put your web address in there. You know, if I wanted to do it, I could just have snailworks.com and have people go to our home page. But most of the things that we're doing, if we're doing mail, you know, it's we don't really want people to go to our home page. We want them to go to a page relevant to the offer. So we always encourage creating an offer specific landing page so that if you're giving an offer, you want people to see that as soon as they click. But that's, you know, that again, that's a choice of the mailer. One thing that's not the choice of a mailer is that the web page has to be a secure page. It has to be HTTPS, not just HTTP. The Postal Service cares about security and integrity, and so and they watch this stuff. They are regularly looking at pages. They're looking for bad players, if any risk that might be presented to consumers for their systems. So make sure it's a secure page. The prospects will not see the URL. So it doesn't have to be like a Perl. It doesn't have to be dave.snailworks.com, whatever that may be. It can be an ugly URL. It actually can't be a super long name. There are limits on that. I'm not sure exactly what, but just, you know, don't go too crazy on the URL. But it doesn't have to be that your customer is not going to see it. They're just going to see the ride along ad and click on that. So I thought that was worth mentioning. So those are the elements you need. You need a representative image, a ride along, and a URL. And so now you're ready to create your campaign. So you'll need to gather your resources. You'll need a website URL to direct your prospects to. I told you I like landing pages, whatever works for you. And you'll need maybe 2 images. Again, the representative image may be optional. And look, there's me. There's the back of my fake postcard. So that's, you know, that's a representative image. Again, it's a JPEG. A ride along ad. Again, it's a JPEG. And then I don't have it on here, and I'm not. But then you'll need a URL to go along with that. So that's the website URL that would direct them there. So the images are easy to create, easy to gather. I think I just did these in Microsoft Word. I don't really sell real estate, but I'd be great at it if I did. So you get your resources together. You'll also have to associate the serial numbers in your mailing with those resources. You know, I always kind of let that slide, but that's maybe the trickiest part of the process. So you can do this in the USPS business customer gateway, or a better idea is have Suttle-Straus do it for you. And the reason being that this is probably the trickiest part, is associating all those images with the correct intelligent mail barcodes, to have the right service type IDs and all that goes on there. So it's usually a pretty good idea to have Suttle-Straus be doing that for you. They've got your serial numbers. They know about the mailing. So it's a very simple matter for them to add that. It can get a little complicated otherwise sometimes. After you've done this, after you have submitted it to the program, the Postal Service will send you back a proof. Looks like this. It really looks just like the ad is going to look in the informed delivery feed for your customers. And once that's approved, you mail it, and it gets delivered. It's worth mentioning that it is timed specifically, so the email that shows that image arrives the same day as the mail piece, or it's designed to. Sometimes it may miss by a day, but they're pretty good at it, has been our experience. But if you're mailing something from California versus mailing it to Michigan, it may take longer to get to California, but that's okay. The ad will coordinate. It'll trigger on the appropriate day when the mail piece is getting delivered. Some of the data you can pull from this, the Postal Service will provide overall results. And for example, in this case, it was 275,000 pieces. I like to point out this was 2 years ago. So results really, even 2 years ago, when there were probably half as many subscribers as now, 20% of this mailing, they were subscribers to Informed Delivery. 16% got emails. And there usually is a little bit of a gap. The people who don't get emails generally access this data on USPS.com or on their Postal Service login. And then this case, I don't know why. This is 2 years ago, but usually we're seeing about 60% open rates. They have 40% here. You can see how many clicks they got. They got 107 clicks. You know, it's 275,000 pieces. Not exciting, but it's, again, everyone likes a few clicks, and for the right product, that can be very valuable. It's also possible to get data out of the system. Now, again, this you'll need help with, but if you can match the serial number in the barcode, you can find out at an individual level what each person in your list did. And if they're on the list, that means they got their subscribers. Did they get an email? Some people get multiple emails at an address. That usually means there's multiple subscribers. A lot of our nonprofits treat this information as like a multi-buyer. Because again, remember I told you the demographics are a little bit better for ID subscribers. Also, there's the general sense is that they're more engaged with their mail. So there's value in that. As far as working with that detailed data, that's it exactly, which is you can append it to customer lists to make them a little more valuable. You can generate additional efforts. Sometimes we've had customers who want to do a second mailing, and they send it to the people who open emails. They figure they're a better prospect and they can cut down their mailing size some. And so again, we have some nonprofits treat ID subscribers as multi-buyers. And then you can match back to measure subscribers versus non-subscribers. I'm not going to go into a world of detail here, but it's interesting data. And these days, people love being able to get additional data on their customers. So it's another characteristic you can get. Whew, I'm going to take a sip of water there. And so that's kind of that's a run through of the program itself of informed delivery. And now I want to spend a few minutes talking about the promotion itself, because that's kind of the big news that's coming up. And it's still a little ways off, but it's time to start preparing now. The registration opens June 15th. So that's when you can start registering and getting approvals for campaigns. And having that extra time could be very valuable. The promotion itself runs August through September. All the mail dates have to be after August 1st. So you can't mail something August 1st and say it's going to induct you can't induct it in July, so it's going to induct it in August. It has to actually, all the relevant dates have to be in August. They all have to be before December 31st. Whether that's mail submission, drop ship, induction. Don't lose a lot of sleep over that. It's at the very edges. Sometimes at the end of the promotion, we work with people to make sure they get the dates straight. The discount, as I said before, is 4% off postage, and that is for the mailed amount. So it's not for the number of people who are subscribers, it's the amount of mail you send. So if you mail 100,000 people, 100,000 pieces, and 20,000 of them are subscribers, this number of subscribers doesn't matter. You'll get 4% discount off the entire 100,000 pieces. You got to take the discount at a time of mailing. That seems kind of obvious, but if you forget to request the discount, and again, that's why it's nice to work with someone like Suttle-Straus, who are professionals. They will make sure the discount's taken at that juncture. If you try to go back later and get it, they won't do that. What's eligible for this? Primarily, and it's first class mail, automation, letters, postcards, and flats, and USPS marketing mail, which is the fancy word for standard mail. Again, letters, flats, letters and flats, and then nonprofit, which really is marketing mail, but it's a separate category of it. So all of those things are eligible for this campaign. Now, important to note that it's automation. That does matter. What is not eligible? Non-automation mail. You got to have a barcode on them. When you think about it, it kind of makes sense. How else are they going to deploy your ad? So it does have to have it does have to be automated mail. Again, this is not eligible. Carrier route saturation mail flats not eligible. And it's just, so they don't really, it's very difficult to correctly trigger an email off of that. Destination delivery unit flats, EDDM, unfortunately, at this point, they are working on a solution for that, but it's not here yet. And on EDDM, you will not get you cannot get a discount. You can't at this time use informed delivery with it. Same with detached address label, detached marketing label flats. I always tell people, if you don't know what that is, then you don't use it. This is an important point, and I wish I brought this up earlier, but it's something to keep in mind, which is one place where informed delivery does not work right now is business-to-business mail or business-to-institution, if you will, so they're going to campuses and things like that. It's still, and if you think about it, it kind of makes sense because who in a business is really authorized to see what's in the mail that day? It's a challenge, and they haven't come up with a solution yet. So right now, so if you do B2B mail, it's not going to be eligible for this promotion, and it's not. Unfortunately, it's not eligible for informed delivery. Parcels and priority mail. There are some programs that we have heard that there are pilots going to use informed delivery with parcels in some cases, but there's no promotional discount for that. So just be aware, it's letters and flats only, and so not. And it's also not a priority mail, even though that may be sometimes flats. It's just first class and marketing mail. So let's go through the process of creating, of participating in the promotion. It's not terribly difficult, but there's some steps worth knowing. You'll have to register for the promotion in the business customer gateway. Generally, the mail house, so in your case, Suttle-Straus is going to be registering for this. Each mailer does not have to. Each mail owner does not have to register for that. But whoever is actually inducting the mail, whoever is submitting the mail.dats, which again is going to be your mail shop like Suttle-Straus, is going to have to be registered. There is an approval process. And like I said, I went through those rules, and we'll go into some more detail on this. But there is an approval process that you have to go through to get your campaign approved before it can go in the mail. You have to create the campaign in the portal. Again, most likely you're going to have Suttle-Straus do that for you. You have to create appropriate e-docs with the mailer. There's a secret code you have to put in. And we'll go through a little more detail on all these. And then finally, you'll have to provide a sample with the mailing. There's an exception to that, but you'll have to keep a copy for yourself for 60 days. And before it was a year, so that's a little bit easier. We've had a lot of pieces hanging around for a year, and no one's ever looked at them. But yeah, you never know. That's the rule. And again, a ride-along image is required for all campaigns. You have to submit for, this is kind of going through the approval. You'll have to submit a JPEG of the ride-along with to get approval on it. So they're going to make sure it's got a call to action and all that. Again, the representative image is required for flats and optional for letter size. But if you use a representative image, you will also have to send along a picture of the mail piece, the front and back of the mail piece, so the Postal Service can make sure the representative image looks like the mail piece. This is an important point where you have a lot of people mess up. You're going to have a website. It's got to be live when you submit for approval. So if you have a special little landing page that you're going to set up in a couple of weeks, it has to be live, and it has to be able to be tested, and they will test it when they do approvals to make sure it meets their requirements. And just one of those weird things, remember, you got to keep that sample, well, you got to get contact information for who has that sample. Probably more detail than you wanted there. You must apply for approval at least 1 week before the mailing. This is new this year. They didn't have this rule. But the official rule is now you have to apply for approval 1 week before the mailing. They say our response typically takes within 4 business days. Our experience has been that's all over the place. Sometimes it took 4 business days. Sometimes it took a couple of hours. Sometimes it took more than 4 business days. So allow a lot of time. They really do enforce this and to make sure that you build big amounts of time. One of the things is this year, but because it's such a big discount, there's an expectation that a lot of people are going to participate in this promotion. And as such, you want to make sure that you allow enough time to get it approved. They're probably going to be a little backed up on approvals. Some things to keep in mind, again, business-to-business mail does not work with ID. It's okay to run a ride-along only. You don't have to have a representative image. And some people actually, the Postal Service used to say they got better click rates. They've kind of reversed the call on that, but it's it's nothing wrong with that. Excuse me. There's sometimes advantages to just running letting the grayscale black and white image go. But either way, you don't have to do that. There are lots of interesting enhancements coming ahead. One of the things that's actually there already is that the Postal Service, if you choose, will append your IMB to the end of your intelligent mail barcode. They'll append some pieces of that to the end of the URL, so you can kind of treat clicks like pearls and have them go to a unique landing page for each of those. Where this is this is advanced stuff, but it is kind of a cool thing there. Eventually, they hope to have variable images. There is a program called Reminders that's about 20% rolled out right now, where a consumer can say, "Oh, I like this ad, send it to me again within a week," and they can get the ad sent to them again. Again, the variable URLs we talked about, business to business, eventually will come. And of course, the big deal is more subscribers, and they keep enrolling subscribers at a pretty snappy rate. For a long time, they were doing 1 million a month. I think that's slowed down a little bit, but they're closing on 50 million right now, so it makes it very valuable. Whew. So we catch my breath for a second and give you some resources, and really digging into resources afterwards to get help for this can be valuable. This is the king of all resources, which is Postal Pro. If you go to Postal Pro and postalpro.usps.com, search on Informed Delivery, the Postal Service has user guides there that will give you the dimensions and the details you need to create your images correctly and things like that, as well as anything else you want to know about mailing is on Postal Pro. That's where we Postal Pros hang out. My favorite website is SNAILWORKS.com, but it is worth visiting. We have a lot of educational material out there under the resources. If you want to listen to me talk more, we have recordings of some webinars we've done, some white papers, specifically on informed delivery, along with some other topics of that. So it's a good resource. And local USPS reps are a great resource on this. And of course, Suttle-Straus, and they have a blog that they run. They have images on this. And of course, if you talk to Suttle-Straus, to your sales rep, or to a project manager, they can also help you with the details of this. It takes a little help. It's not the hardest program in the world. As promotions go, it's pretty easy to participate in. Postage rates are going up. This is an opportunity to bite back a little bit of that. And that said, here's some contact information. Always free to send me a note. And Suttle-Straus' contact information is here as well. And on that note, I'll say, Megan, do we have any questions?
Yeah, thanks, Dave, for that informative presentation. We will now open it up for questions. If you have a question for Dave, please type it into the questions box in your GoToWebinar panel on the right side of your screen. While everyone's submitting questions, I wanted to remind you that the webinar is sponsored by Suttle-Straus. If you'd like more information about adding informed delivery for an upcoming mail campaign, just let me know with the poll that's up on your screen right now, and I can have your account representative reach out. Dave, we got a question from another Dave. I think you've already answered it. What's the lift in response for nonprofit or profit sales?
Oh, the lift in response where we saw, I actually had two clients who did a little bit more sort of sophisticated analysis of it. One was a financial, and they did see a lift in response. They were actually promoting loans, and they did see a lift in response in that, and that we had documented. And then on nonprofit, on some of the fundraisers work, they've also seen a lift in response. It's kind of definitive.
Yeah, a question about the sizes of the representative image. It listed a maximum size of 500 pixels, but if you look at like Lord and Taylor, they look to be a lot longer than that sometimes. So is the max size not really a max size, or have you seen those?
The max size, as I understand it, is really a max size. Again, I kind of, at that level of detail, if you look at the user's guide and maybe if you work, with your printer or mailer to confirm that, but I think that is the max size. The Lord and Taylor thing does look big, but I don't know the details on that, to be honest.
All right. Question from Steve says, those who open their informed delivery, what % click on the URL?
Oh, gosh, it depends on the offer. On a high end, 1%, on a low end, 0.01%. It just varies so much with the offer. Again, I wouldn't base my my judgment of using it or not using it on what the click rate is. It's not going to be usually your biggest bang for the buck.
Right. We have a case study from a nonprofit where they got a single donation that came through Informed Delivery, but it was 10 grand. So, I mean, you don't want to turn that away.
I'll take that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's all the questions we had from our audience. Thanks, everybody, for attending. If you think of another question you didn't have a chance to ask, you can always email them to me or to Dave directly. Email up there on the screen, info@Suttle-Straus.com, or Dave's is dlewis@SNAILWORKS.com. Everyone should watch their email tomorrow for a link to the recording of this presentation and a PDF of the slides. And thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Dave.